Today we can see the topic adaptation. If an organism has to survive in a particular habitat, it has to adapt itself to survive in that habitat, isn't it? So it should adjust or adapt itself to the environmental condition existing in that habitat so that it can survive in that habitat. So what is this adaptation? Adaptation is any attribute of the organism that enables the organism to survive and reproduce in its habitat. Okay, it can be morphological adaptation, physiological or behavioral adaptation. So what is adaptation? Adaptation is any attribute of an organism that enables the organism to survive and reproduce in its habitat. We can also define adaptation like this, that is, the adaptations are the useful morphological, physiological or behavioral changes developed in living organism over long period of time to adjust itself according to a particular environment. Okay, and many of these adaptations have evolved over long evolutionary time and are genetically fixed. So during the course of evolution, some changes occurred in the gene which enabled the organism to survive in a particular environment, in a particular habitat. Okay, now when we see about the adaptations in different organism shows different type of adaptation, isn't it? So one of the example here is the adaptation seen in kangaroo rat. This kangaroo rat can be found in North American deserts, okay, and without water it is capable of surviving. So in the absence of any water source, it is capable of meeting all its water requirements through its internal fat oxidation. So during oxidation of fat, one of the byproduct produced is water. You have studied about the oxidation of any organic matter inside any animal's body, isn't it? So when the food is oxidized, one of the byproduct released is water. Same way here, this kangaroo rat will be meeting all its water requirements through its internal fat oxidation. So the water which is released as a byproduct of fat oxidation will be utilized by the kangaroo rat for its survival. Okay, then another adaptation seen in this kangaroo rat is it is having the ability to concentrate its urine so that very little volume of water is used to remove the excretory products. Okay, the excretory waste can be removed with a very minimal volume of water. So they are having the capability to concentrate its urine. Okay, so this is the adaptation seen in kangaroo rat in the absence of water. So what you're seeing here is the picture of kangaroo rat. Okay. Now when we see the adaptation seen in desert plants, these desert plants have a thick cuticle on their leaf surface. If you see the leaf of the desert plants, you can see it is having a very thick cuticle on this leaf surface. Cuticle, a waxy coating, you can see it on the surface of the leaf. Okay, and they are also having sunken stomata. The stomata are present in deep pits. Okay, that is stomata, we can say it as sunken stomata. So they are having sunken stomata. That means these stomata are arranged in deep pits. Why it is arranged in deep pits? Generally in a leaf, if you see where the stomata are present on the epidermal layer, isn't it? Epidermis is the outermost layer of the leaf. If you take this section of a leaf and see, the outermost layer will be the epidermis, and in that epidermis only the stomata will be present. But in these desert plants, the stomata will be present in deep pits or in deeply seated. Okay, that we can say it as sunken stomata. So why it is present deeply present? Because in order to minimize the water loss through transpiration. Okay, Otherwise, as a result of transpiration, a lot of water will be evaporated. So in order to reduce the water loss through transpiration, the stomata are situated in a deeper region. Okay, see in this picture you can see the outermost layer. See here is the color light white colored structure, that is the cuticle. You can see a thick cuticle is there. Then you can see the green colored epidermal layer. Okay, and in the center you can see the pit is there. Okay, a depression you can see, and in that only the stomata, that opening is there, which is guarded by the guard cells. Okay, so this is an enlarged view of the leaf epidermal layer of the leaf of desert plant. Okay, so you can see the thick cuticle, and below that only you can see what the stomata. Okay, below that the epidermis is there, and below that in the pit you can see the sunken stomata. So when the stomata is present in a deeper region, what happens, it can reduce the loss of water through transpiration, because it will not be directly exposed to the sunlight. Okay, then another characteristic which is seen in this desert plant is they have a special photosynthetic pathway called CAM pathway, that is CAM pathway. CAM pathway means the full form is crassulacean acid metabolism. Okay, CAM photosynthetic pathway means a crassulacean acid metabolism. Actually, it is a photosynthetic pathway. Okay, so this is shown by the desert plant. So what is this crassulacean acid metabolism? See here, the stomata will be opening only during the night time. Okay, during the daytime the stomata remains closed. Okay, during night only it opens. Okay, and during night when the stomata opens, it allows the carbon dioxide to diffuse into the leaf. So carbon dioxide can enter into the leaf, and there this carbon dioxide will combine with the PEP. PEP means phosphoenol pyruvate. This in C4 pathway you have studied last year in 11th class, isn't it? So this carbon dioxide will combine with the phosphoenol pyruvate, and it forms a 4-carbon compound called malate or a malic acid. Okay, and this malic acid is stored, it will be stored in the large central vacuoles which is present inside that cell until the daytime. So okay, so during night the carbon dioxide which is entering inside will be combining with the phosphoenol pyruvate, and it forms malate, and this malate will be stored in the central vacuoles. Okay, till the daytime. And during the daytime what happens, this malate is released from the vacuoles. It will be coming out of the vacuole, and then it will be decarboxylated. So during decarboxylation what happens, carbon dioxide will be released, isn't it? So that carbon dioxide will be reduced to carbohydrate. So this is the photosynthetic pathway which is seen in the desert plants like the cactus plants, pineapple. Even pineapple also follows this CAM pathway. Okay, so CAM pathway means it is a special photosynthetic pathway which is seen in the desert plants. Okay, so here the stomata remains closed during the daytime, and only night time it will open. Okay, yes, and some of the desert plants like opentia, they have no leaves. So you might have seen the opentia plant. It is not having any leaves, isn't it? So what happened to the leaves? The leaves will be reduced to spines. You might have seen the cactus plant with the small spines on their body. So this leaves are reduced to spines. Why they are reduced to spines? Again, in order to reduce the water loss. Okay, if leaves are there, automatically through the stomata the transpiration or loss of water occurs. So to reduce that, the leaves are modified into spines. Then the flattened stem, the stem of cactus is flattened, so it takes up the function of the leaf. Okay, the photosynthetic function is taken up by this flattened stem. Okay. Next is Allen's rule. That is, if you see the mammals which live in the colder climates, they will be generally having shorter ears and limbs. So in this picture you can see the animals, these mammals which are having shorter limbs as well as the ears. Okay. So what this is said to be as Allen's rule. Okay, so what is Allen's rule? Actually, Allen's rule is an eco-geographical rule which was formulated by Joel Asaph Allen in 1877. So he stated that animals adapted to cold climate have shorter limbs and ears, okay, which are adapted to warmer climates. That is, the animals which live in colder climates have a shorter limbs or any such appendages. Okay, appendages means outgrowths like a shorter limbs and shorter ears than the animals adapted to live in warm climates. So this rule is said to be as Allen's rule. Okay. So this as per the rule, we can see in colder climates the mammals which are found there are having what? Smaller limbs as well as smaller ears. Now what is the use of this small ear or small limbs, shorter limbs? In order to reduce the heat loss. Okay, to reduce the heat loss, they are having shorter ears as well as the limbs. Okay, so the blood vessels will not be much exposed to the cold climate. Okay, that is the reason behind this. Okay, then same way, the animal like seals which live in the polar regions, they are having a thick layer of fat that is called blubber. You might have heard of blubber. What is blubber? It is a thick layer of fat which is present below their skin, and it can act as an insulator and reduces the loss of body heat. Okay, so the seals are having thick layer of fat called blubber below the skin, which can act as an insulator. Insulator means which can prevent the heat loss. Thus it reduces the loss of body heat. Okay. Till now what we have seen are the morphological adaptations. Okay. Now we can see the next, that is physiological adaptations. Okay. Morphological adaptations means their body morphology is showing certain adaptations which help them to survive in the habitat. Okay. Now we can see an example for physiological adaptation, that is based on their function, how the animals or how organisms are adapting to survive in a particular environment. See, suppose if you have gone to higher altitudes, you may experience water altitude sickness. Suppose if a person has gone there, any of you have gone to high altitude like Rohtang Pass near Manali or Leh. If you have gone there, you might have experienced the altitude sickness. Okay. Then how you can know that you are facing such altitude sickness? Some symptoms will be shown like nausea, fatigue, heart palpitations. So these are some symptoms which the person can experience when they go up high in altitude. Okay. So the organisms are capable of adapting themselves physiologically, which help them to respond quickly in such a stressful situation. So if a person is going up high in the altitude, their physiology will make them to respond quickly to such a stressful situation. That is why the people is experiencing such nausea, fatigue and heart palpitation when they go high in the altitude. It is due to the lack of water, oxygen. Okay, when we go up in high altitudes, the pressure will be decreasing. The amount of gas which is present there will be decreasing. The amount of oxygen available will be less. Okay, because of that only the person will be experiencing the sickness called the altitude sickness, which shows the symptoms like nausea. Nausea means feeling like vomiting, fatigue, tiredness, and heart palpitation. Heart will be beating faster, isn't it? Abnormal beating will be there. That is heart palpitation. Okay, but after some time, gradually their body will get adjusted or adapted or acclimatized, and they will stop experiencing such altitude sickness. Okay, now how their body will be solving that problem? It is their body will be compensating the low oxygen availability by increasing the red blood cell production. Okay, so the person's body starts producing more amount of RBCs. Then the body also, the physiologically, it decreases the binding affinity of hemoglobin and increase the breathing rate. So these are the changes which takes place inside their body. What are they? One is increasing the RBC production, another is decreasing the binding affinity of hemoglobin. That is, the binding capacity of hemoglobin with oxygen will be reduced, and because only less oxygen is there, isn't it? So it will be reduced, and by increasing the breathing rate, so faster they will be breathing, so the oxygen which is available in that air can be taken inside in more amount. Okay, so these are some of the adjustment which will be done physiologically inside their body. Okay, thus they will overcome this altitude sickness. Okay, now the tribes who are living in such a range or high altitude, how they are capable of surviving there. So generally their body will be producing more amount of RBC. So when we take their blood and see, we can see generally their body will be producing more amount of RBCs because they are living in a place where there is a low pressure or low oxygen content. Okay, so their body automatically will be adapting to that environment so that they will be able to survive better there. Okay. Next is the biochemical adaptation. In most of the animals, the metabolic reactions and all the physiological functions will be taking place effectively, or it will be proceeding optimally in a narrow temperature range. Okay, in our human body, if you see, the optimal temperature is 37 degrees Celsius. So at that temperature, all the metabolic reactions and the physiological functions can take place normally. Okay, but if you see some organisms which live in extreme conditions, for example, in 11th you have studied about the archaebacteria. They used to live at the extreme environmental condition, isn't it? So the acidophiles, they will be living in extreme acidic condition or high temperature, isn't it? So this archaebacteria, which are living in deep sea hydrothermal vents where the temperature will be more than 100 degrees Celsius, they are able to survive there. How they are capable of surviving in such a high temperature where no other organisms are able to survive? See, already in biotechnology chapter, we have studied about this Thermus aquaticus, which is having thermostable DNA polymerase enzyme, isn't it? So the proteins which are present inside their body, or the chemicals, biochemicals or the biomolecules which are present inside their body, inside that cell, that is archaebacteria or a single celled organism, isn't it? So inside their cell, all the molecules which are present are thermostable in nature. That is, they can withstand high temperature. So even if the temperature is more than 100 degrees Celsius, they can withstand that temperature and they will be able to survive in such a temperature. Okay, thus they are capable of surviving in hydrothermal vents where the temperature is more than 100 degrees Celsius. Okay, now same way in Antarctic waters, where just opposite you take, the temperature is very low, below zero, isn't it? Sub-zero levels it will be. So how the organisms which are living there are capable of surviving? So here, see in the first picture you can see the hydrothermal vents where you can see the water is evaporating. So more than 100 degrees Celsius the temperature will be, so the water will be evaporating there, and in that high temperature the bacteria is capable of surviving because they are having thermostable chemical system. Okay, now the next two diagrams shows the fishes which are living in the Antarctic waters. Okay, so here the temperature is very low, isn't it? But they are capable of surviving in that temperature, that is very low temperature, below 0 degrees centigrade. How? Because they are having chemicals which are having which can prevent freezing. Okay, they are having anti-freeze chemicals in them. So what is present? They have anti-freeze chemicals in their body which can prevent the body fluid from freezing. Thus, they are capable of surviving in Antarctic waters where the temperature is very low. Okay. Then even we can see a large variety of invertebrates, especially marine invertebrates and the fishes which are living at a great depth under the ocean are capable of surviving even in that crushing pressure. See, when we go up in the high altitude, the pressure will be decreasing, isn't it? But when we go deeper into the ocean, the pressure will be going on increasing. Okay, crushing pressure will be there. But some of the organisms are capable of surviving there. The pressure there will be more than 100 times than the normal atmospheric pressure which we are experiencing. Okay. See, here you can see the picture of the fishes which can survive in the deep ocean where the pressure is very high. How they are capable of adjusting with such high pressure? Here they don't have any air cavities inside their body. They don't have any air cavities. If air cavities are there, it can be crushed, isn't it? Then they also show various anatomical structures and various proteins are there. Cell membrane is there. So all this can allow them to withstand such a high pressure which is there in the deep ocean. Okay, thus they are capable of overcoming that and they are able to survive in such a greater depth where the pressure is very high. We can say 100 to 1000 times more than the normal atmospheric pressure. Okay, so these are some of the examples of what biochemical adaptation shown by different organisms. Next is the behavioral adaptation. So some organisms also show some behavioral adaptations to cope with the variation in the environment. For example, if you take the desert lizard, the picture which you are seeing is the desert lizard. So here it is a poikilothermic animal, isn't it? Poikilothermic means what? They are not having a constant body temperature. Okay, they have to change the body temperature according to the environment. Then only they will be able to survive. Okay, so by behavioral means they will be adapting themselves to survive. Okay, so what they do is when that body temperature drops below their comfort zone, that is below which they find it difficult to survive, then they bask in the sun. Basking means, they will go and lie on the sun so that their body will be absorbing the heat. Okay, and when their when the body temperature start increasing, when they get enough body temperature, then they will be moving to the shade. I think you might have seen some animals basking in the sun, isn't it? So one of the example is what? A desert lizard which can bask in the sun to absorb the heat when they need more temperature, and when enough temperature is there in the body, then they will be moving towards the shade. Okay, then some other animals may burrow into the soil and hide, and they escape from the heat of the sun. To escape from that, they will be making burrows and they will be hiding under the burrows. Okay, so these are some of the adaptations which are shown by different organisms which enable them to survive in a particular habitat. Okay.